Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Russo. Thank you for joining me. We are going to spend the next hour talking about creating and leading high performance teams. So typically this presentation is between 3 and 4 hours, but I do think we can accomplish enough in our 1 hour together that you will find the information useful. And if you do have any questions after, you're always welcome to reach out to me. So I'm going to open by explaining what we typically think of as a high performing teammate or the type of folks that we want to be on our teams. We want people who are hardworking, who share their good ideas with us, who behave in a collaborative manner, and who act with honesty. So I would say that's our general impression of an ideal teammate. Now I'll go on to further explain to you that there is no formula for the perfect high performing team. So if we did have a formula for that, I think everyone would know it, they would emulate it, and we wouldn't be talking about it today. So in general, though, there are some commonalities around successful high performing teams. So we will explore those. We will also touch upon some of the characteristics that derail team performance so that we know what to avoid. So typically what we see on those high performing teams are highly motivated, dedicated employees. We will talk about how to find them. There's always a clear vision. So there's a passionate leader who is discussing a clear vision. There's usually an emphasis on 2 to 3 goals. Much more than that become daunting to focus on. And there's healthy conflict, constructive debate. So what we don't want to see is a group of people who are just continually agreeing with each other without consideration of any outside perspectives. We think of that type of behavior as groupthink. It's not helpful. So what we see on highly productive teams is a certain amount of conflict, but it's done in a healthy, productive manner. Highly performing teams are typically willing to try new things. They're flexible. However, you see here the picture of balance. Having a highly productive team is not about running people into the ground. So I do want to make sure that I'm clear on that. In the business world, there is a story out there about a company that did have a really tight deadline. They had people working 7 days per week. This was going on months after, for months, month after month. And they did have a scenario. It ended up okay, but they did have a scenario where an employee forgot to drop the infant off at daycare and realized a few hours into the workday that the child was in the back of the car, and the child was resuscitated and didn't experience any long lasting damage. So that's very good news, but it was certainly a wake up call about the what can happen if we run people into the ground. There really can be detrimental consequences. So that's why you see this picture here about balance. We want high performance. We want healthy people. There's definitely a balance, and I would be remiss if I didn't share that. So let's switch gears now and think about the difference between managers and leaders. Managers tell us what to do. They tell us how to do it. Great leaders help us know why we're doing it. They are painting that inspiring picture. And within an organization, we do have people who fill different roles: individual contributors, supervisors, team leads, managers, leaders. All of these roles are important. They all do serve a very relevant purpose. So, what do we want from our leaders? We want that compelling vision. We want them to motivate us to achieve our goals. We want to know that we're doing something that matters. This motivates people. It makes us feel passionate about the work we do. So there are tons of phenomenal leaders out there in the business world who are very generous with their advice and the things that they do in their organizations that work for them. So I will share some of that information during this presentation. So a lot of what we commonly hear from successful leaders is that people have a passion. They're selecting people who are passionate about the particular work that they do. They like to achieve and exceed expectations. They want to understand how the work that they do matters and how it connects to that overall vision. So that's where you see the vision, the reason, the purpose, the inspiration. They are very goal-oriented people, and that we see the hands-on managers of teams are having productive conversations with their with their teammates. They're talking about career goals and aspirations. They're trying to find ways to help people achieve their goals. They're behaving with honesty, with authenticity. They're transparent. They're sharing information. They're making people feel like they matter by sharing important information with them when they can. At times, sometimes these conversations do raise awareness to perhaps a mismatch or simply the reality that someone's not going to be able to continue advancing where they are. People are open and honest about that. They try to find ways to give people access to the work that they like to do. They like to be transparent if that might not be possible. And people are typically pretty honest and high performing while they may actually be seeking other opportunities. In the past, that was, a very secretive idea, the idea that we may be leaving an organization. Now, people who continue to produce at work are still welcome, but they're open and honest about the fact that they possibly may not be a good fit for the long haul just by virtue of where they want to grow in their own careers. But what we want with our leaders and our managers and really every employee on the team is that passion. So if you've heard me speak about emotional intelligence, I've mentioned that emotion is contagious and that we want positive contagious energy. So we want those people who are positive, who are motivated, who are energized. They make us feel good. We like working with them. That's what we're looking for. So let's compare and contrast different types of team cultures. So what you see on the left, it's pretty obvious that that's the type of culture on a team that is not producing great results. If they are, it's probably not long-term. It's probably a very short-term success. So the idea of lack of engagement, people who are micromanaged, a strong focus on chain of command, information being highly guarded, status quo, that's the way it is, that's the way we do it here, and either formal or just aloof relationships with other people. Now, just a minute on micromanagement. I have never heard anyone say that they enjoyed being micromanaged. I've also never had a manager acknowledge that they behave like a micromanager, which is interesting. Often people who are micromanaging don't realize they're doing it. Why do they do it? Sometimes it's because they're not confident in their own abilities to train other people. So then they keep watching them, watching them, watching them. Other times it's because they think they are measured by the accomplishments of the teammates. So they keep close, you know, they're very closely connected to their teammates. They're too connected to their teammates, and they're kind of repackaging those successes, those accomplishments as their work. They don't have something different to differentiate themselves with. So this is where micromanagement comes from. Again, I've never ever met anyone who told me that they enjoyed being micromanaged. So you see that in the group that basically identifies a poorly performing team. So on the right in green are characteristics that we tend to see from the highly performing teams. These are very engaged employees, and there is another program on employee engagement. If you have more interest in that topic, I think it's great for all managers to become familiar with. But they're autonomous. There's transparency on the team. Information is shared. There's accountability. So people are not afraid to step up and say, that was me. I wanted to try that out. It didn't work out. There's that accountability. There's the passion. Remember, we want that positive, contagious energy. And there's strong working relationships, strong relationships with the people on the team and the people in the company. Now, what's interesting, this is about 11 years old, the Netflix culture deck. They have it archived now, but it's very widely discussed and referred back to. I think Sheryl Sandberg has given a quote on the Netflix culture deck as being something of great value that came out of Silicon Valley. So here's a couple slides. Again, it's archived now, but still great information. And these are four of the slides that were in the deck. The whole deck is about 125, 130 slides. But what they explained was that many companies have nice sounding value statements. You see those there: integrity, communication, respect, excellence. They went on to give the example of Enron, right? There you see it. Their leaders went to jail. The company went bankrupt from fraud, and they had those values displayed in their lobby. So they looked nice on a plaque, right? But they weren't reality. They were literally words that looked nice on a plaque. So Netflix went on to explain that the actual company values are the behaviors and the skills that are valued in fellow employees. So in Enron, what they were actually rewarding were bad behaviors, not the things that were on the plaque on the wall. All right, so we see on the right, the actual company values as opposed to the nice sounding values are shown by who gets rewarded, promoted, or let go. So we need to behave in a manner that is consistent with the values and the culture. If we don't do that, we will not have honest, high-performing teammates who behave with high integrity. So again, what are those key cultural behaviors that we often see out there? Integrity, communication, connectedness, performance. These are examples. They may not be appropriate for your organization. You may have other ones. Whatever they are, they should be things that people see happening. You should be able to pull an example where you can demonstrate these are our values. This is how we see it. So I'll just throw out one from healthcare. Could be something like patient over profit. They may say that's demonstrated by spending a little bit more money on something to make sure a patient has a better outcome. They're demonstrating patient over profit. Whatever your values are, whatever the behaviors are that you're seeking, you should be able to demonstrate them. So going back to our high performance teams, people want to be part of a good team. Nobody craves, nobody's motivated by being a member of a team that isn't any good. Nobody wants that. All right. We want to be proud of our colleagues. We want to be proud of our team successes. We need to feel psychologically safe with each other. This is a concept, but that's been out there for a while. But there's current literature, there's current books out on this now, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth about it. We also want to know that our teammates are dependable, that we can rely on them. We want to understand the structure of our team. We want to know the plans, the goals. We want to see a positive impact on our work. This is closely connected with employee engagement. Really, it's the same thing that we see with employee engagement. We want to be able to see the positive impact that our work has on the world. And a good leader is able to show that to an employee, to each person on the team. A good leader can show how that work connects to the overall organizational goals and why it matters. And then that's where we also can see work having some personal meaning as well. So now we've been talking about teams. We are going to talk about teams, but on each team, there are individuals. I know they say there's no I on team, but teams are literally made of individuals. So we do need to focus on the individual for a bit. So we need to get to know them in order to be able to motivate them. We need to know their background, their values, all these things here. Preferred recognition. This is really important. You need to recognize people when they do a good job, but if they don't like public recognition, don't do that. So when you hire someone new or you meet someone new, or maybe you just didn't think to ask the question, ask it now. How do you feel about public recognition? Or if you don't want to ask that question, you can ask, It's also important to ask, how do you like to receive feedback? So maybe it's more constructive in nature. You do need to know that. It's good to ask how people like to receive that. Also, going back to the preferred method of recognition, you can ask for examples. What's the best kind of recognition you've ever received? Maybe someone will tell you, I got an extra day to stay home with my family. Maybe they will tell you it wasn't even about a reward given, but something written, a written card. They might tell you that actually the recognition they valued the most came from a peer. People really value peer recognition. We think about recognition in terms of something that the manager or the leader is providing, but peer recognition is really, really valued by people. So that'll be interesting if you hear that as an answer. So that is the end. I've put a ton of information in here. Like I mentioned before, this typically is about a 3 to 3.5 hour program. I trimmed it down to give you some useful information in an hour. But if you do have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me. And if you think this or any of the other programs would be useful for your organization, they can also be customized. So again, thank you for your time. I hope you found it useful and please stay in touch. Thank you.